Welcome to this module on understanding cannabis vaping. In this module, you will learn about the realities of cannabis and vaping among youth in Canada. You will also learn about cannabis vaping products, the harms and risks associated with vaping cannabis, as well as strategies that you can use as an educator to support youth in reducing their risk. Use this module alongside the Educator's Guide, which provides additional information, tools, and resources to support your learning. Let's begin. Cannabis is the second most widely used substance among youth in Canada after alcohol. According to the 2019 Canadian Student Tobacco, Alcohol and Drug Survey, students in grades 7 to 12 were on average 14 years old when they first used cannabis. And 42% of youth who used cannabis said they vaped it. This is a 12% increase since 2016. Research shows that using cannabis during adolescence and using every day or almost every day can increase the risk for mental and physical health harms. It can also increase the risk of engaging in risky health behaviors, such as impaired driving, and it can impact academic progress. To understand cannabis vaping, let's first look at the basics of cannabis. Cannabis, also commonly called marijuana, weed, or pot, is a product made from the cannabis plant. It is often used for its intoxicating effects, or the high that it produces. Although cannabis affects every person differently, people often describe the high as feelings of euphoria, happiness, and relaxation. A doctor may prescribe cannabis for certain medical conditions when other treatments have not worked. This could be to treat certain types of pain or to treat nausea related to cancer treatment. More research is needed to understand how effective cannabis is for these purposes. Cannabis contains over 100 chemical compounds called cannabinoids. The two most well-known compounds are tetrahydrocannabinol and cannabidiol. Tetrahydrocannabinol, also known as THC, is the primary psychoactive component of cannabis that produces the high. Cannabidiol, also known as CBD, does not produce a high, but can lead to drowsiness. How cannabis affects someone can vary with each use and from person to person. The effects of cannabis also depend on the amount used and the method of use. Cannabis products can be inhaled, ingested, or applied topically. The method of use can determine when the effects are felt. Now, let's look at cannabis vaping. Vaping is a method of consuming cannabis through inhalation. Unlike smoking, vaping heats the cannabis product to create a fine mist or vapor that is inhaled, whereas smoking burns cannabis to create smoke. While vaping does not involve burning or combustion, it still exposes you to chemicals that are created in the heating process. These chemicals can be harmful to lung health. Vaping devices can have different names, including mods, vapes, vape pens, sub-ohms, and e-hookahs. They are typically battery-powered and can come with removable parts. Most vaping devices consist of a mouthpiece, heating element, and chamber or tank that stores the substance. Vaping devices come in many shapes and sizes. Some look like pens or small USBs, but some are much larger. They can be refillable or made for single use. Now, let's look at the cannabis vaping products used in these devices. Cannabis vaping products can contain either THC, CBD, or both. They can be a liquid, an oil, or a solid, like a wax or dried cannabis flower. They come in different flavors, such as candy or dessert flavors, which makes these products more appealing to youth. The amount of THC and CBD found in cannabis vaping products varies. Oils and wax, known as concentrates, typically have higher levels of THC, ranging from 50 to 80%, and sometimes higher, compared to other products like dried cannabis flower that contains 10 to 25% THC. Youth who start vaping cannabis at a young age and use it every day or almost every day over a long period of time have an increased risk of developing mental and physical health harms as well as social problems. While more research is needed to understand the long-term effects of vaping cannabis on brain and lung health, here's what we do know. Through the heating process, vaping may create new chemicals that could be harmful to the lungs and brain. While rare, defective vaping devices can catch fire or explode, leading to burns and injuries. This can also happen when devices are modified to use substances other than what they were intended for. Most cannabis products used in vapes are concentrates containing high amounts of THC. Using higher strength products over a short period of time can lead to overintoxication, also known as greening out. This happens when the amount of cannabis consumed is more than the body can handle. Overintoxication can cause severe anxiety or panic, an increased heart rate, nausea and vomiting, and paranoia. Using cannabis products every day or almost every day can also increase the risk of developing a tolerance to cannabis. This means higher strength products are needed to feel the same effects. Using cannabis at a young age, every day or almost every day, over a long period of time, can increase the risk of developing cannabis dependence or cannabis use disorder. While some people are more susceptible than others, cannabis use disorder can develop at any age. Youth are particularly vulnerable to the mental health harms associated with cannabis use, including difficulties with thinking and memory, dependency, and cannabis use disorder, because their brains do not fully develop until the age of 25. Cannabis use can impact a young person's health, social life, school performance, and put their financial future at risk. Regardless of how it is used, cannabis is still cannabis. It is not without risk. Youth may vape cannabis for a number of reasons, including to experience a high or to have fun, to fit in or be more social, to try something new, to cope with stress and anxiety, or to help with sleep. Whatever their reasons for using cannabis, it's important to provide opportunities for youth to learn about cannabis and vaping. So how do you start the conversation? Approach the subject in a way that is open, non-judgmental, focused on the facts, and which builds on a positive educator and student relationship. Some youth may be uncomfortable or hesitant to talk about cannabis and vaping for fear of judgment or the repercussions of using under the legal age. You can help put youth at ease by adopting the following strategies. Create a safe, judgment-free space where youth can feel accepted, valued, respected, and supported. Be empathetic and present in your conversations with youth. Use language that encourages openness, trust, and understanding, an approach that feels more like a two-way conversation, not an interview. Avoid language that could be stigmatizing like stoner, addict, or user. And focus on the facts. So, what are some of the key messages you can communicate when talking to youth about vaping cannabis? Delay using cannabis for as long as possible to lower your risk of cannabis-related harms, especially when your brain is still developing. Avoid mixing cannabis with alcohol and other substances. This can lead to overintoxication that can put your health at risk. Don't drive after using cannabis. Cannabis affects your coordination and judgment, which can make it harder for you to react to things. Use products low in THC if you are using cannabis, and try to limit how often and how much you use to lower your risk for cannabis-related harms. Understand the reasons behind your cannabis use. If you're using to cope with stress, anxiety, boredom, or to help with sleep, identify healthier alternatives to manage these. When it comes to cannabis and vaping or any other substance, youth are doing their own research. But the information they find is not always accurate or based on science. Educators are uniquely positioned to equip youth with the evidence and information a young person needs to make informed choices about vaping cannabis. Now let's recap the main takeaways from this module. Cannabis affects everyone differently. Youth who start to use cannabis at a young age and use every day or almost every day have a higher risk of developing mental and physical health harms and social problems. Vaping comes with risks. Vaping may create new chemicals that could be harmful to the health of the lungs and brain. Most cannabis vapes use cannabis concentrates that have high amounts of THC. Consuming high amounts of THC in a short period of time can lead to overintoxication. Frequent and heavy use can lead to cannabis dependence or cannabis use disorder. Vaping devices that are defective or modified can cause injury, including burns. Educators are uniquely positioned to provide opportunities for youth to learn about cannabis vaping. When educating youth, discuss the reasons why some people may vape cannabis, the risks of vaping, and the ways in which youth can lower their risks if they still choose to vape cannabis. We've reached the end of this module. To further support your learning on this topic, refer to the Educator's Guide for additional information and resources.